All right, what's up, everyone? You are listening to the What You Sippin' On podcast brought to you by B3 Business, Bonding, and Beer. I'm Eric Thornton. I'm a realtor with eXp Realty. I'm joined by my friend Dennis Tolpa, a residential mortgage lender with Studio Bank here in Nashville. My good friend William Stiles, local insurance agent with Country Financial. And our mission is to help you connect with other local businesses here in the area, business leaders, other folks out trying to build relationships. That's our goal, is to play connector here. So we do that through our B3 networking events. We give you the opportunity to connect with other business-minded people at those events. We host the What You Sippin' On podcast, where we bring local business leaders like our friend here, Larken, straight to you, no matter where you're tuning in. So we hope you'll like, subscribe, share this podcast with anyone who you think might find value in it. And we hope you'll watch our social media channels as we announce local networking events, and we hope to see you there. So that being said, we also need to say, if you're in the market for a new house, mortgage, refinance, auto, or life insurance, we'd love the opportunity to help you out. We do our best to serve all of our clients and value the opportunity to do so. And I'd be remiss not to thank our man behind the camera here, Brian Holloway with Black Fox Media.
Ooh.
None of this would be possible without Brian. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, we're going to get on with the show. So we are joined here by Larken Lech. Larken is the powerhouse head strategist and founder of Pretty Creative, a Nashville-based full-service marketing firm, and we'll find out more about that here straight from Larken in a second. But our first question is always, Larken, what you sipping on?
It's Jack and Coke.
Simple.
Classic, Southern.
I like it. Well, cheers.
Well, cheers. Thanks for joining us
Cheers.
today.
Cheers.
So we got to ask, what's the story behind Jack and Coke? Just all-time favorite, or where'd that come from?
No, I was a beer drinker in college. Can I say that? I can say that now that I'm old, right?
Yeah.
Of course, 21 and after.
you're in
college,
good,
right?
Right.
You're in good company.
Yes. So I actually went to a party when I was 20. Cops showed up and got put on probation for a year. And so I was a good kid, and I understood that if you are on probation and you get caught again, there is no collect $100. You just go straight to jail. And that really scared me. And so I just didn't drink from the time I got put on probation until I turned 21. And in the midst of that, I had moved to Nashville. And so when I turned 21, the first place I went was Broadway. I was like, yes,
Good choice.
I can legally drink a drink, but I really didn't know what to
You
order.
went to the place for sure.
Yeah. I went to a bar called Crossroads. And at that time, and it was 2006, I walked into Crossroads and there was like nobody there. It's not the Nashville that we know today. There was one really kind of scraggly old dude sitting at the counter, and he was drinking something. And I just said, I'll have what he's having, because I didn't really know how to order in a bar, and I was by myself. So he had ordered a Jack and Coke, and I thought that's just what everybody probably drank, because he was. And I drank it, and it was disgusting. And I was like, that is horrible. I'll have another. Thank you very much. And just kind of fell in love with them after that. And it also
awesome.
just reminds me of where I started, I guess. Takes me back to that time at Crossroads many, many years ago. So
probation, and I'll have what he's having later.
Yeah.
Here we are
And
drinking
here we are.
Jack and Coke. So I
Super
gotta take us-
successful, by the way. So,
Hey, it works.
it all works out.
All-time favorite, all-time great. So I got to take us back a little bit, because you and I have some similar roots back
Yes.
at our Illinois State days. Go Redbirds.
Yes. I'm originally from a small town called Paris, Illinois. You may have heard of it because the famous country singer Brett Eldridge is actually from Paris, Illinois.
Hey,
So
there
he's
you
put
go.
us on the map down there. But I went to Illinois State University. I got a degree in mass communication. Had to make a decision between going in front of the camera or behind the camera. Chose behind the camera for various reasons. And kind of the rest is history. I started doing music videos and things like that in college. And at one point, my counselor said, you need to apply for a off-campus internship, apply for your dream internship, and then apply at all the places you'll probably get, which are like middle of nowhere, North Dakota, for like $10,000 a year. And so I sat down and thought, where's the one place I'd really love to go? And that was Nashville. And so I applied at CMT, Country Music Television, and kind of forgot about it, and applied at all the other places I think I'd get. And then I randomly got a call the day before Thanksgiving, and it was CMT, and they said, how fast can you get here? And I was like, I'll be there this afternoon if you need me. So that's the quick version of it. But
So going back
yeah.
to college, you said that you you could either be in front of the camera or behind. Why did you want to be in front of the camera?
So at the time, this was right around 2003, 2004, in that little era. And I had a lot of friends being deployed to Iraq. It was a pretty rough patch during that time. And that was all the news was really covering. And so when I was covering that from a writing perspective and a reporting perspective, it was just too rough for me. It was really emotional. And I thought I can't do this every day. I also had a really great teacher, Laura, who will probably listen to this, and she's amazing. And she had won an Emmy and set us all down and said, I won this because I was the first one on the Jeffrey Dahmer case. So to win an Emmy because so many people, had a really bad ending, she's like, I just want you guys to know that this is the profession that you may be going into. And that really hit me. And I said, no, I think I'll just make some music videos and do the back end stuff. I don't think I want to be a reporter. Retrospect, maybe a weather woman. That would have been a good deal. No one expects you to be writing weather. So
you get paid whether you're right or wrong.
You're right, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad William asked that question because when I look at you, obviously great personality, but you got a pretty strong social media game too. I mean, you're not afraid to put yourself in front of the social media.
Yeah.
The iPhone type of situation. So it's interesting to hear the motivation kind of behind the path that you took.
Yeah, and back then, social media didn't really exist. When I started my jobs, it was called emerging media because no one called it digital. It wasn't a thing. It was like this thing that may exist later. And so I think as we all have, we've just gotten more comfortable with technology. And, I have a pretty strong TikTok following. I think I have about 130,000 followers on there. This week,
pretty awesome. I think we have one or two, right?
Yeah.
So
Let's just talk about that the rest of the time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think I'm at 13. Thanks, Mom.
more dancing. But yeah, it's funny because when you're doing it, you don't think about people actually seeing it. And I've had a couple people this week be like, oh, I saw you dancing on TikTok or whatever. I'm like, that's humiliating.
Yeah.
I don't know why I don't think my friends will see it, but they do. And then I just think about deleting the whole thing.
That's funny. Well, it's weird when you're talking about making a decision based off of a war that was happening here and how that affects so many different people. Not even close to that, right? Because I mean, you're close to it, but you're making a career decision based off a war thousands of miles away. And here you are looking back, like you could have been a weather person, but because of that decision, here you are today. Which I don't know. I just look back at certain things in my life, and it's like, wow, like based off this, my whole life could have changed, right?
Yeah, I would probably still be in Illinois. Probably somewhere around Normal, where we went to school. Normal, Illinois is actually the name of that place, by the way. But yeah, it's just that one decision, and it turns out to be a good decision. You don't know it when you're doing it, but it totally changed the course of my life. I would have never moved to Nashville. I would have never done what I'm doing now and gotten to the digital space. So yeah, it's pretty crazy that something like that in the past changed everything and the trajectory of my entire future, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now you're at CMT with an internship. Take us through kind of that transition, how that unfolded.
Yeah, so when I moved to Nashville, I didn't know anybody, not a single person. And
Just the guy at the bar.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
straggly
guy. Scraggly guy at bar and Jack. That's the only person I knew.
Yep.
And so my dad basically dropped me off in what I thought was like a Sex in the City cool apartment, which was actually just cockroach infested, one of those. And my dad looked around. He's like, I can't believe I'm leaving you here. You got 6 months and then you come home if you don't have a real job. And so I made that kind of my mission to get a big girl job. And halfway through CMT, I kind of asked them like, hey, do I get to like stay here after this thing's over? And they were going through a real transitional period and basically said, not really. If you do, you'll be a freelancer kind of situation. And I, at the time, coming out of college, I don't know if this is a millennial thing. You guys are all about my age, I think. But I just thought I'd be like a manager when I got out of college and made like $75,000 a year because I got a degree. So that was really shocking to me when I had to like apply for like an entry level position somewhere. And so I did that at Comcast Spotlight, which is the advertising division of Comcast Cable. And I think it was like a receptionist position, but I just wanted a job so that I could stay in Nashville. And went in and they basically said like, no, you don't fit, the receptionist thing, but we got this thing called emerging media and it's like this digital thing. Do you know anything about the internet? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I have a phone. So they kind of just put me as a digital specialist and was in charge of really like on demand when it first came out on your TVs. I was uploading lots of high school football games so that you could watch high school football games on your on-demand channels, and then the internet display ads. And then as Comcast grew bigger and bigger in the digital space, I also grew within my position. So that's how I got really into digital, and I learned a ton. And then, of course, small businesses were asking us, well, how do I get more business using digital? And so I really had to go through Google and train and figure out what's the difference between a display ad and a search ad and all these different things. So a lot of it was exploratory in the beginning. But yeah.
That's awesome.
How cool is that? Just it's almost like a right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you're going this path, I'm going to be your receptionist, and then, hey, you know anything about the interwebs? Like, absolutely, know everything there is to know about it. Like they call me Mrs. Interwebs. Like yeah, and then away you go. Like
I feel like that's been the story of my life. I've just been the right places at the right times and know the right people. And I think that's 90% of business is knowing who to talk to. And that's really just kind of how I've navigated the waters, especially, nobody in a city, to building a business where I'm working with some of the biggest brands in the city. That's something I'm really proud of. And a lot of that is just the really great people that are in Nashville.
So how do you tell us how you transitioned from what you were doing then to now you're, CEO of a great big marketing company. You have all these accolades. You were nominated for CEO of the year twice. Is that right?
Just once, but I did win it.
Oh,
So.
there you go. Okay. So, I mean,
that's worth at least 6 or 7 nominations.
Absolutely.
Right.
So talk to us how you got from at that point making, what a receptionist makes to being now. How'd you make that transition?
Well,
I'm sure it took a long time, but
yeah, I quit at Comcast because I felt like I'd been doing it for a while. And like, is there anything else that I might be good at? I had no idea. Talk about meeting people at the right time. I was at Panera just one day doing sales calls, and a guy approached me. He's like, I've been listening to you for like 30 minutes. You're pretty good at that. He's like, have you ever thought about doing IT sales? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And he was like, well, just come with me for a day and I'll show you. And I was like, okay. So I took a personal day, went on the sales day with this guy. And I thought I could do that. How much money do you make? And he was like, a lot. And I was like, okay, cool. So I did it. And I hated most of it. I love the people that I worked with.
was that cold calls or was
Mostly
it
cold calling. I learned pretty quick I was not a salesperson. I'm good at relationships.
not a cold call salesperson?
Not a cold call
We're all
salesperson.
more relationship driven, I feel
Right.
like.
And back then, that was just like you ring a ding ding and that's it. Like that, there was no personal connection until you actually met the person. But I was selling data level infrastructure, enterprise level data storage. And so,
Did you have to say that every day?
basically,
No wonder why you couldn't sell it.
yeah. I was like, just tell me what I need to do. And they're
You
like,
lost me at
"You
data.
just-" Yeah. So we had an engineer that would come with me to talk all those words. Right. And I'm just doing like the pricing piece of it. So, which I loved my engineer. He was great. And he's actually local here, but kind of fell out of love with hanging out in basements all the time, which is where I was at in data centers. And went back to Comcast, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you back, and things have changed, and here's all the things. And so I did that, went back to Comcast, and then I ended up getting pregnant with my husband. And I quickly learned that I wasn't going to be on airplanes and traveling all over the United States after I had this baby. And so afterwards, I quit. And I am one of those people who the people at the facility were my family, they were all my friends. And then you go from that to nothing, you're just being a mom and changing diapers. And I thought, I can't do that. I have to do something. And so my husband came in, my daughter's about 3 months old. And he was like, maybe you should just do what you do for you and not somebody else. And I was like, that's a good idea. I'll never tell you that was your idea, but that's a pretty good idea.
But here we are.
I've been thinking.
Yeah.
I think
I think I could probably do that. And so that was really the infancy of, at the time I called it Mama Media, because I was a new mom and I was helping other mompreneurs. That was kind of what my little kitsch was.
So give us a date range on this. What year was this?
2013.
2013. Okay, so Facebook is really ramping up.
Yep.
It's getting out there. And so you kind of found this niche of other moms that wanted to start their small businesses, doing whatever they're doing. And so that's really hard to find niches like that too. So it must have been that's very successful.
Yep. We had a large group called Boss Moms that was ran by another woman. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, Dana something. But it was a group of like 40,000 moms. And at the time, childcare was getting really expensive. So you saw this influx of moms saying, I need to help bring in money, and I don't want to go back to work and just pay for my kid to be at childcare and not make any money. So there was this really big push of what can we do from home and make money. And so for me, that was marketing. And for a lot of them, it was Etsy stores and digital products and things like that. So I was trying to help them build those businesses. And then I ended up getting in touch with a woman named Monica Van Landingham. Her husband actually worked at Comcast Spotlight with me. She was a social media manager. That's all she did. And so she came to me one day because she knew I did all the digital pieces at Comcast and said, hey, I have a client wanting to build a website. Do you do that? And I said yes, even though I'd never built a website in my life. And it was for the Funky Griddle, actually, if you guys have heard of that place. Really great pancake shop. And Monica had done a really great job of building their social. And so they wanted their website to look like a griddle with pancakes and all that. And so I built it. And then her and I basically teamed up after that. And I said, I'll build the websites if you get the social pieces. And we still work together. So she's a freelance social media manager of ours at Pretty Creative. And it really just kind of took off from there. People saw what we did there and said, we want you guys to do ours. And it just kind of snowballed into, I'm no longer really helping moms. I'm really helping small businesses. So I'd made that transition, and I renamed my company to Migration Media. And then that lasted about a year. And then I realized that these medium-sized companies were the ones who were really going to pay and needed us. And so I changed my company to Digitally Pretty, and we did all digital. So email marketing, SEO, the website, the social pieces. And then last year, we started working with, in the middle of the pandemic, we reached out to a bunch of clients who we thought we'd never get a shot with. And we said, we'll do it for free for 6 months during the pandemic to give you guys some help. And they said yes. And then we started doing things that were outside of digital, right? We were a full service marketing team. We were sitting in as basically a whole team. No matter what you needed marketing wise, we were going to do it. So now we're wrapping buses. Like we helped wrap the Braves buses when they won the World Series this year.
Yeah.
And we went down to Atlanta and did that. And I said, we're not really digital anymore. And so I just renamed the company Pretty Creative at the beginning of this year, I think it was, or last year.
Okay,
awesome.
okay. We got to stop there. Like,
Yeah, it's a long story.
I mean, we're like,
I need a drink.
that's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, like, in one breath, we went from helping mompreneurs to like now we're riding with the Braves on
over
the
course
World
of
Series champion bus.
8-9
that.
years.
No, that's so cool. I think
Try
one
living
thing-
it.
a lot of things stood out there, but who was it? Was it Richard Branson that said just like when you get an opportunity, say yes and figure it out later? Or probably a lot of smart people have said that, but you actually put that into action. So you get approached and say, can you build a website? Yes, absolutely. I can build a website. Back to, yes, I know everything about the internet, right? So like there's just this theme here. So in looking back, I mean, we went to the same school, great business school at ISU, but I feel like marketing was changing a lot then. So I feel like whenever we got our degree in marketing, it was more of it was a little bit more old school. It was like advertising, billboards, like, yeah, target market and all that kind of stuff was the same. But I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't learn how to do those things in school. So there has to be a self-taught kind of theme emerging here, right? Or surrounding yourself with the right people. Like what was your next step after you said, yes, I can do that? Did you figure it out yourself? Did you bring people in?
Jack and Coke.
Jack and Coke, perfect.
No. I think I've just always been surrounded by really great people who've always told me you can do anything you want to do, from my parents to Kathy, who was one of my bosses at Comcast. She just always said, you can do it and you have a really high learning curve and, put your mind to it, you can do it. And so I don't think I've really had any doubt that I could. It was just, well, I've never done that. Now I'm going to have to go to YouTube and I'm going to have to, I think I paid for like a lynda.com subscription. You guys probably don't know what that is, but
Linda,
yeah, it was like you could learn anything from Linda. And so
Was that Jeeves's brother?
Jeeves, yeah, ask Jeeves.
Basically. But yeah, it was just a lot of trial and error. And I used a lot of the what I call more simple platforms, the Wix and the Squarespaces that were a little more easy to use. And then pretty quickly realized that WordPress was probably the best platform to use when you could actually design and do that. And I also knew when to hire somebody out to do that, you have to know your limitations. I think that's one of the best things in businesses you can figure out is what you're good at, and then how to surround yourself with smarter people at the things you're not so great at. And I think that's why Pretty Creative has been successful. I have the Monicas and the Libbies and the Autumns who are on our team who do the things that I necessarily don't excel at. And Rob, who is our web developer and graphic designer, he does all primarily WordPress, doing those things. So
I love what you said there, that you created a team. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that all of us in this industry, and especially in small business, it's hard to let go of things. Like you're doing the website, it's hard to let that go, even though that's probably a big time killer for you when you need to be out there doing what you do best, sales or whatever that is in marketing. So talk to us that process of creating a team and what that looks like.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of how to word this. I knew that if I wanted to end up being 100% successful, which was, for me, 100% success is selling my company at some point. And if that's what I want to do, I can't just be the company, right? So the second best thing I can do is to teach people how to do it the way that I do it. And that is why people choose Pretty Creative. There's a million different agencies. They choose us because we do it a certain way. And so, although the team has their own attributes and the team can do social media probably better than I can, right? A lot of them. We also do it in a certain way with Pretty Creative that another agency doesn't do. And I had to let a lot of that go, and it was hard. It was not easy, but we also have systems and checks and balances. Like we have a task manager that we use via Google, which is free, by the way, for any businesses out here listening. Google has so many tools that you can use to get to this point. We use Task Manager, and we go through that every day just to make sure we're all on the same page of everything going on. We all double check each other. It's very a team unit. It's not an individual thing. And so what I'm trying to do is make myself replaceable, which is weird to say in business because you're constantly trying to make yourself irreplaceable and the most important person, right? But what I'm trying to do is get to a point where it runs without me. So it was
That's
really
awesome.
important.
Yeah.
Where did that become the goal? I mean, because you're so immersed in the business and doing all these things. When did that flip? When did you flip the switch to, okay, this is my long-term goal to be able to sell this thing at some point?
I had a really smart businessman approach me about possibly purchasing the company a couple years ago. And I had to give him all of my numbers and everything like that. And he came back to me and basically said, great, but without you, it's pointless. And I said, oh, like I hadn't
thank you.
Yeah, like it was a compliment, but also I hadn't really thought about it. And he said something to me that stuck with me. And that was, you have probably built this business to give yourself a paycheck to put food on the table for your children and do those things. And that was correct. And he was like, but I'm in the business of selling companies and making millions. And I was like, ding, like, oh, hadn't even crossed my mind to sell it really until he had approached me. And then I had another company about 6 months ago approach me about possibly buying. And I said, I'm not there yet. I didn't even go down the road. I said, I know what I have to do and I need to hire a couple more people and, reach back out to me in a year and a half. So
It's such a cool journey. So,
Yeah.
so what are you doing to educate yourself on how to get to that next level?
drinking Jack and Coke.
Recurring theme here.
No. It's a lot of learning. And I think going back to mentors and not being afraid to ask the people who are successful that you've worked with in the past and say, how did you get there? And maybe it's just one step above you. But they may know someone else who's a step above them and so on and so forth. And I've always been the person where like motivational podcasts are not my thing. Like I'm not listening to a motivational speaker or any of that. I've always just
Thank
been
God this isn't motivational.
Yeah.
Everybody up here is motivating. Okay.
We're
great.
demotivating.
We're demotivating. Good. Keep going.
But I just have always, again, aligned with the right people who have said, let's sit down, have a drink, and I'll ask me all your questions. And that's what I did. And they were like, well, here's the first thing you do. You need to hire a coordinator and assistant. And so that's what I did. And then you need to do X, Y, Z. And so that's what I did. And I also make sure that those are the people who most likely want to buy my company someday. So if you're following their directions and everything, then it should work out. Okay.
A couple things that you've hit on is hiring. You've mentioned that a lot. And I know I'm having to hire some sub-producers, some associate agents and office managers and those types of things. That's a struggle to hire. So is there a particular platform or is there any outsourcing you do in that area, or how do you come up with your hiring process as you take a drink?
Jack and Diet.
If they're not drinking, can't be on the team.
Yeah, I think, and this is no surprise, I think, to anybody listening and or anyone in this room, but to me, anything can be taught. I think it comes down a lot to personality. The people that I've hired who are newly out of college may not have known exactly how to run a social media account for a business. They may have their own personal ones. But if they can talk to me in a way that I'm like, okay, I can trust you to go to a meeting without me, that to me is invaluable. Versus I can teach you how to do X, Y, Z. As far as platforms go for recruitment, Instagram to me is number one. And number two would be TikTok. TikTok actually recently developed like a recruitment platform piece. And I honestly don't even know all the parts and pieces around it yet. I'm still learning on that one. But TikTok is also universal. So depending on your company, I have a lot of companies that we work with where recruitment is actually the marketing piece that we're working on right now. And so they're looking at me saying, how can we make us look fun and exciting on social so that people want to come here and not just work here, but also move to Nashville to work here. And so building brands on social is really important, especially if you have, like we have a vision center who we make look really fun on social, and then more people want to come work at a vision center. When you think of vision center, you don't necessarily think, oh, that's a really fun place to work at. But we put like a mural up there and just very Nashville-y kind of stuff. And so we've had pretty good success doing all that.
So you said TikTok, and then what was the other one?
Instagram.
Just Instagram. So you just put, hey, we're hiring on Instagram, and that's it. There's no special tool within Instagram. Or
I mean, if you
totally
dance,
get off MySpace.
If you dance, that's helpful.
MySpace it's over, man. Let it go.
Oh God, throwing it way back. I'm gonna leave the dancing to Eric.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue, Larken. Sorry. I couldn't pass up the dig on William.
I think just knowing like your audience to Instagram is a younger, more millennial audience. TikTok is even younger than that. I think average age of a TikToker is like 17. And so knowing what message, I don't ever put the same message on every platform. Facebook skews much older. You probably remember when Facebook was just for college students. That was the good old days.
That was about 2006, 2007, right? So, yeah.
Yep. And then all of a sudden my mom was on it, and I was like, that just took the fun right out of that. So,
Block.
Yeah. Block you from everything that you're about to see on here. But since that time, it's skewed much older, probably around 35, 40.
What would you say the number one thing you said personality. So what would be the number one thing you're looking for in a new hire? Is it attitude? Is it activity? Is it their emotional? What is it? What is it for you?
Definitely attitude. Like I said, you can teach them how to do anything. It's 100% attitude and communication for me. We write on a board the top 5 reasons we're successful, and I think people are always shocked. Like number 5 is marketing. Number 1 is we're good communicators. We're over communicators when we're talking to clients. Number 2 is we're proactive and not reactive. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for in people. But everything else can be taught. I taught myself, so I know that if I can get someone who can talk and be proactive, I think that's the hardest thing, especially working from home, and everything that 2020 taught us is, I see my neighbors out and I'm like, do you guys have jobs? Like, what's going on? Does there nobody else work around here? Mm-hmm. But if you can find those people who are proactive and get things done, then I think that's priceless.
Cool. It's awesome to hear your journey, because you probably don't know this, but Eric and I went to one of your marketing seminars through the chamber. What year is this? When did you move here? 19?
Yeah.
So we met for the first time in line waiting to talk to you.
Aw, love
fact.
Story.
Yeah, it is. It truly
after.
is. So we're waiting to talk to you to just say, hey, thanks. That was informative. And it was great. But that's how we met and decided to have coffee after that. And since that event, like, I've followed you on social media. So I've like almost seen your journey through social media, which has been fantastic. And the best part is what you just said about making it fun. Because like, I've watched some of your stuff with your new hires. I'm like, I don't know anything about marketing, but I would go work over there because that looks like a lot of fun. So I think everything that you've said for me on the other side is 100% true, and you're doing a great job of that, just from my vantage point. So
thank you. And so this is also my doing then, is what you're saying. Like, I'm the reason this whole podcast exists is.
Yeah, I got to correct one thing though. It was not coffee. It was beer.
Oh, sorry. Well,
this is not
right.
business
Yes,
bonding
you are
and
right.
coffee. This is business bonding and beer. For
That's
a
very
reason.
true.
Yeah, that's what you're sipping on.
But everything else was very true.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because at the beginning of 2020, before everything hit, that whole marketing, what I call that conference, I guess, mini conference, was a prelude to a bigger conference I want to do in Nashville. So it was really like my test. And then, of course, COVID hit, and I was like, well, we'll postpone that for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping to actually do a big digital conference called Let's Get Digital, probably in 2023.
You haven't got the opportunity to host that yet?
No.
I remember you promoting it and everything. I guess I just lost sight of
It was sad.
the fact that you couldn't do it.
I look forward to getting those free tickets in the mail.
You are
Hey.
definitely getting them.
One thing you talked about was 2020, and you were giving away 6 months of free marketing. Did you get that in return? Did those companies stay with you? Was that a good strategy for you guys?
Yes, they all stayed with us, and then we signed contracts, obviously. But it was also a great way for us to learn the value of what we were doing. I think that there were lots of different companies and, let's say, niches that we couldn't have done that with. Medical was one that we could. And so at the beginning of 2020, I also announced that we would only be doing events, hospitality, and tourism.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing for that.
Perfect
1000%.
timing. Was that in January?
Yep, that was
Oh,
in January.
fantastic.
I changed the name to Pretty Creative, and I said, "Here we go. We're gonna just do events, hospitality, and all the fun stuff." And then 2020 hit, and all that went down the drain because they were the worst hit. The hardest. And I said, "Just kidding. We'll take anything." And so I did. I reached out to a few places, and I actually work at a really great co-working space called, I'm going to plug them if that's okay, On Demand Visionary Works. And so it's basically co-working. We all have our own offices there, and they are an HR company also. And so they had been coming to us saying, "We're having a hard time recruiting in 2020 because everybody wants to work from home and all these things. Could you make socials look fun for some of our clients?" And so we actually started there, and then that light bulb went off, and I said, we should reach out to a bunch of HR companies and see what we can do, because most of them work with several different companies.
Those guys at All Demand are great. It's a great company.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And we still have them on as clients today. So it's been, what year is it? 2020, 2 years since that happened.
That's awesome. You found some opportunity buried within the the struggle everyone was going through.
Pivot.
Yeah,
that was the word, wasn't it?
So a company comes to you, and like, I just look at my own business, and it, like, there's so many different things that you can lay out. Like, how am I going to market myself? And it's just like analysis paralysis, I guess. So how do you walk a company through that? I'm sure there's a lot of layers to it, but just kind of, what's the short version of when someone comes to you? How do you say, "Hey, this is kind of the vision that we should execute on together"?
I think one of the biggest missing things in marketing that people don't think about is a buyer persona. Even large clients that we go to, we'll just use real estate for an example. I'll say, "Who's your client?" They're like, "Anyone who wants to buy a house." And I'm like, that's not real. Like, that's not reality. Like, what sector of Nashville? Is it East Nashville? Is it, who's your person? Are they 25-year-olds that are just getting a first home? Or is it people that are more established, things like that? So if you can hone in on what that is, I think that's step one, right? Then my recommendation, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs, every platform known to man is too much. It's daunting to do that. So pick one and own it. And so if that's TikTok, then own TikTok. If that's Instagram, then own Instagram. And again, it goes back to who your person is and where they consume media. So if your person is a, 24 to 35-year-old woman, you're going to be on Instagram, even if you're a man. Okay. And you're going to be building out content of what they want to see. Well, most of those women want to see the bathroom, in those houses. Like, this is the tub. Yes, there's a tub. You're welcome. Yep. You can soak here after those kids drive you a banana hammock. Okay.
True story.
Yeah. And so just kind of understanding the persona. I think the hardest part is getting out of our own heads. I have to do that myself sometimes too. I'm like, that's a horrible idea. And then I'm like, well, that is kind of who they're reaching, And so I think those are my two biggest takeaways: is know your buyer persona and then own a platform. Doesn't matter which one, but you need to figure out who and where your buyer persona is consuming media. And then the third thing I would look at, which a lot of people overlook, are partnerships. And I mean, you guys are doing a good job sitting in this room, but looking at what makes sense as far as a partner. It may be something completely off the wall, but most places that are a little bit bigger than you will have an email list a little bit bigger than you. And if you can become a part of that, then you've hit 1,000 people who didn't know who you were before. And then if you can reciprocate that in some way, shape, or form and help that business, then that's always a win-win.
That's awesome. That's great info.
But listeners didn't expect those little.
That'd be
nuggets tuning in.
$7,000.
It's like, wow, yeah, bills in the mail, invoices in the mail. So I take it, just listening to you talk, it sounds like you've performed this same kind of exercise on your own business. So like, you're not the mechanic whose car doesn't run. Like you're the owner of a marketing agency that it would appear from kind of the outside looking in that you're doing a very effective job of marketing your own business.
We are the worst at marketing.
Well, it looks good from afar. So
I don't know if you've ever heard the term like the cobbler who has no shoes. That's kind of like how I feel sometimes. I'm like, oh, we got everything done. It looks great. And then I'm like, we haven't posted on our own social in like 4 days. Like we got to do something. But it's also when I started hiring, I thought I can't do that. Like I'm so focused on everybody else. Like I need someone who can at least just post under our own stuff and schedule that out. And so if you look on our feed, which is at Pretty Creative Agency, you'll see a lot of our teammates doing some fun dances and just little things around the office that, again, it's personality stuff. And we get reached out to a lot about like, are you guys hiring? Or I'm like, you guys don't even know what we do, I don't think. But they like our office and our vibe. That's what the 23-year-olds in my office call it, is the vibe. So I guess that's the right terminology. Yeah, vibes. Hashtag vibes.
All the vibes.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned when you first started down this path that you had a child, right? So you've done all this as a mom. And a lot of people find themselves in that position now, working from home and having children at home. Kind of explain how you've navigated through that and the challenges there. And I'm sure lots of Jack along the way. But outside of that, what is that like for you, and some advice you could give some working moms or dads, I guess, at this point?
Yeah. I started when I was, I'm just going to say it because I feel like we're all adults, but like I had a baby on my boob
Yep.
with one hand making websites, at 3 a.m. And it was a struggle. It was not an easy thing to do. I had a great husband who just said, if you want it, you got to do it. And, one of my biggest inspirations in business is actually Dolly Parton. And that feels like a really Nashville thing to say. But the reason she is because she came from nothing. She came from zero. And she has built everything. And so whenever I kind of got down on myself, it was kind of like a what would Dolly do moment. Like she'd just do it, she'd suck it up and she'd do it. And she would surround herself with the people that would help her do it. And so I had a really good support system. I ended up having a second child he's going to be 5 this year, this month. And so I had to do that through a second pregnancy also. And that was more scary because I had already established clients who I was like, oh my gosh, like how do I take a maternity leave in the middle of all this? And truth be told, I really didn't. I wanted to work. And with the second one, it's easier. If you have kids, you'll understand that. But it's hard. It's not an easy thing. I'm not going to lie to you. If you're a mom listening, you can do it. 1,000% you can do it. But you're going to have a lot of guilt. I did about, oh my gosh, I've looked at this computer too long, or I've been staring at this phone too long. They're going to think that I'm just over here, recreationally on social media, and I'm not. I'm actually trying to make money to get us to Disney World or wherever I'm trying to go. So,
yeah. No, it's a lot. I mean, because we work from home now through COVID, so I'm home. My wife's there, but also the kids are there. And it's funny, they'll behave for hours until you pick up the phone. And then that's when they know 100%. I'm like, we were just fine for 2 hours. Now there's a phone call and I'm like running out the back door in the backyard just so they can't hear this screaming kid. Truth be told, they're at home and their kid's probably in the back room screaming too. So I think one thing coming from COVID is that everybody's in that position now and everybody is fighting that same battle. Whereas before you would have to hide it a lot more that, hey, I'm actually at home in my gym shorts on the couch. Where now everybody's kind of there battling the battle.
It did. It kind of eliminated that stigma, which I loved. Seeing, really high level CEOs all of a sudden like at their home and like their dining room table in pajamas. I was like, this is awesome. I feel way less pressure, for my kid who's naked running behind me on the couch.
Yeah.
And they kind of loved it. Like you saw really like business executive people becoming humans. They were just people like you and me. I worked at CMT, kind of bring it back full circle here, but they the celebrities who would come in there, you would, kind of get tense at first, and then you just realize they're just normal people. And, a lot of them were kind of nerdy, like, they weren't anything extravagant. And so I felt the same way during COVID, like these people who I was afraid of, who were like C-level executives, all of a sudden I was like, oh, you're just a person like me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It
was really funny that coming out of that, you saw all these YouTube videos of all these people that were very professional, and then all of a sudden a kid will run through the back and they'll jump up and they're actually in their underwear. I mean, you wouldn't see that back before COVID, but now it's like
I feel like we should give a shout out to the guy that logged in with the cat face filter and couldn't figure out.
Yes.
Was that an attorney of some sort? Like he
Yes.
literally logged in for like general session or
I
something.
can't get the cat.
You can't get the cat face filter off. I mean, I feel like he broke down a lot of barriers for us all.
Yeah, I
in
think
this
we're all
industry.
good.
Yeah.
2020 may have seemed bad, but it was great in a lot of ways for those purposes. Yes.
So you've got all this success. You're doing really well as a mother, which is, we have 3 kids. So my wife had the same guilt. She'd been staying at home and now she's having to go back some. But talk to us about what's the future hold for you and your company. What's that looking like?
We decided we're really only going to do about 12 clients per year. That's the capacity in which I feel comfortable. And so once we get to that level, I think we're at 9 right now. So we're looking for those few companies that maybe need a really great marketing firm. If you're listening,
Come on, bring it on.
For us to be a part of that, we'd love to talk to you. But I really want to get to the point where I can maybe start a new venture, and I don't know what that looks like yet, and hand it off to somebody else. But right now, just loving what we do. I wake up every day and I'm excited to go to work. I think that's a rare thing. So I feel really blessed and excited to be able to do that. But yeah, that's kind of the goal.
Well, even if you don't know it yet, I'm sure you'll say yes. Figure it out later.
Or drink a Jack and Coke
Or
and
drink
figure it
Jack
out.
and Coke and then figure it out later.
That's right.
But I feel like there might be some people lingering out there wondering a little bit more about this Atlanta Braves deal. I mean, to me, that was pretty cool whenever I saw that going on social media. So tell us some more exactly about how that came about and what that experience was like.
Yeah, one of our clients is Gray Line Transportation here in Nashville. If you know them, they're the leader in transportation. And we basically got a call the day before saying, from the Braves, to the CEO of Gray Line, basically saying, like, if we win, we're going to need your buses. And so, of course, we're like, great, we'd love to help. And so that's honestly the only baseball game I think I've ever watched in my life. But I was like, with my bag, just maybe I'm going, maybe I'm not. And they end up winning, obviously. So the drivers actually drove kind of overnight, got there very early in the morning. And as soon as we got there, they started wrapping those buses. Incredible team, the Braves internal team, and everyone that they had on staff. And then I ended up actually riding in the bus for the parade. So if you watch that on TV, you might be able to see like my hand with like a camera somewhere in the front. But it was just one of those once in a lifetime, I think, opportunities that I got to do, which is really fun. I don't think I'll probably ever get to ride in a World Series parade again unless they maybe pull it out again and need us down there. But it was really, really exciting and just very cool from a marketing perspective to see how that works. I think a lot of people probably wonder like how they get those buses wrapped so fast, And well, it was all on standby, moving very, very fast. So it was a really cool experience just from a marketing perspective to be a part of all of the ins and outs and how it worked. And so now I can tell that story of, oh yeah, that's how you do that. You guys don't know how to do that? That's easy.
That's a very cool experience.
And there was zero pressure there, right? No pressure at all.
No pressure at all. I was sweating until the parade was over. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, we appreciate you having us out. Can we hit you with some speed questions quick?
Sure.
Let's do it. You ready? Take a drink. All right. Besides Crossroads on Broadway, where's your happy place?
The bar next door. No.
Is Crossroads there anymore?
It is.
It is still there. Okay.
Yes.
I thought maybe that was
much more populated.
Yeah.
Than when I was
thought
there.
maybe that was AJ's. What was?
AJ's next to it.
Yes.
I think.
So yeah. Okay. Go ahead,
Paradise
sorry.
Park was, obviously the optimal place down there. Used to be. Happy place is. This is going to sound weird, but fishing. I like to go fishing.
Oh, really? What kind of fishing?
Just bass fishing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you didn't own your own marketing firm, what would you be doing?
1000%, I would be a stand-up comedian.
Awesome.
I would have to have someone write all of the material, but I just think that'd be such a cool job. Like, what a fun job to just go make people laugh. That's really what I would want to do. I don't know if I could actually do it.
Yeah. I like it. Your favorite book or podcast, whether it's back in the day, currently?
My favorite book is probably The 5 People We Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. I'm not a super religious person. It's actually not about that at all. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you have a chance, grab that. It actually really changed my perspective on life and how I interact with people. And so to me, it's more actually a motivational book than it is about religion or anything heavenly. But yeah.
Awesome. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be?
God, invisibility.
There you go.
Which you are after a few Jack and diets.
So you think you are.
So I think you are.
Well, awesome. Well, that's all we got. We really
Or
do
you're
appreciate
a super good TikTok dancer. One
And
or the
really
other.
great dancer.
Yeah, exactly.
as a comedian. So you got it all just in one. That's it. We love it. Well, thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. It's been
thank
awesome
you
to hear your
guys.
Thank
story
you.
and what you're doing. And cheers to that.
Cheers.
But thanks for coming out. What you sipping on? We really appreciate you tuning into this episode. Once again, if you could hit the like or subscribe, that would be awesome. And as always, behind the scenes, Black Fox Media, Brian Holloway, you the man.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.